passage that Jesus shared. It tells a story, and he's wanting to teach us about prayer, about what prayer is and how he wants us to approach prayer. My hope is that you'll see a little bit more about how prayer isn't just for experts. It's not just for saints or the mystics who could sit upon a pole for days on end and pray in silence. There are some who can do that. But prayer is meant to be for everybody. For people like you and me. It's for the powerful and the powerless. For the strong and the weak. For those who wonder. It's for those who cry out in pain and confusion at times. Sometimes even maybe shaking their fist at God a little. God understands that. We can read through the Psalms and we see the psalmist crying out to God at times when life just doesn't seem fair. And they don't understand why the good struggle and the evil prosper. It just doesn't make sense in those seasons. And so they cry out, and it's okay for us to cry out. Prayer isn't for those who simply pretend like they have it all together. God doesn't want us to simply put on a happy face when we talk to him and act like everything's wonderful and everything's perfect. He wants us to be honest with our hurts, our fears, our dreams, what we're hoping for the future. It's been said some people miss this kind of prayer that Jesus is talking about by about 12 inches. And I know I was one. See, I grew up in a church. I went to Sunday school. I got gold stars. I memorized Bible verses every single week. I knew all about God up here. I knew Jesus was God's son. I knew about the resurrection. I knew Jesus was going to come back and that there's a heaven. I knew all about God. But I didn't know him in my heart. There was this gap. And there's a world of difference between knowing about God and knowing God. Having a close relationship with God. And that's what Jesus is teaching us in this story about prayer. About what prayer looks like and what it feels like. It's not about us pretending like we're perfect. For me, again, I was raised in the church, and I finally came to a point where I saw other people who were different. They seemed to have a real relationship with Jesus. Whereas I just knew about him. You know, it's like it was a foreign land that I heard about. And maybe I had a tourist book talking about, and I knew all about that foreign land, but I had never been there myself. And they seemed to have actually been there and talked about it. And I wanted more. I wanted more from my faith than simply knowing about God, knowing what was right and wrong and trying to do what was right, although a lot of times I do what was wrong. I wanted to bridge that gap, and so I was actually at one of our Methodist church camps at Camp Anaba. How many have ever been to Camp Anaba? A few of you. More of us have been to Camp Gretna Glen, which is closer. But Camp Anaba, I was there, and there's a nice river that kind of runs through the middle of the camp. I like rivers, so that was nice. I was in 9th grade, so I was 14, way back when. And I just finally went away from, we were on a youth trip, and I went away from all the others, and I just had a seat in the rocks above the river. And I just sat there, and I kind of cried out to God. I didn't cry, because I'm just, I wish I was the kind of guy that could cry more. I think I've cried about 5 times in my life. And it's maybe as I get older, maybe I'll get that gift of being able to be a little more in touch with my real feelings. But that's not who I was then. And I sat on the rocks and I said, Lord, I want more.